When thinking about the exports of countries around the world, what typically comes to mind are the resources and material goods that are produced. A cursory look at the Philippines would depict its greatest exports being, say, semiconductors and electronic products, cargo vessels, produce such as coconuts and pineapples, both of which make the Philippines the third largest producer of each. But no, in truth, what many regard as the Philippines' greatest export is its people, namely OFWs. OFWs, or Overseas Filipino Workers, are temporary labor immigrants whose remittances play a crucial role in stabilizing the finances of their families and the Philippine state. It is estimated that they form 10% of the total population of the Philippines, as well as 10% of the national GDP. OFWs are ingrained into the national identity. In 1988, President Corazon Aquino heralded OFWs as Bagong Bayani, modern-day heroes who sacrificed much for the betterment of their families and their nation. More than a decade later, President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo likened herself to a CEO of a global Philippine enterprise of 8 million Filipinos who live and work abroad, the backbone of the new global workforce. How did this come to be? The modern-day OFW can trace their origin to President, though more distinctly known to history as authoritarian leader, Ferdinand Marcos. His labor export policy in 1974 was to serve as a sort of band-aid to the ailing Philippine economy. It institutionalized OFWs and required them to send remittances back home to stimulate the economy. This exacerbated the issues of an economy and, to a greater extent, a country already codependent on the US. In 1898, after ridding themselves of one colonial power, the Spanish, the Philippines found another in their supposed ally, the United States, who annexed the Philippines after the Spanish-American War. And with that, the US planted their roots. They established military bases, they opened the country to American businesses and products, they introduced an English-based education system to instill American culture and values. And this didn't end with the Philippines gaining independence in 1946. American influence was here to stay. So let's examine the environment that cemented this labor migration and OFW phenomenon. On the home front, policy-wise, again, you have Marcos's warm body export, legitimizing and promoting OFWs, something that was continued and extended by his successors like Aquino and Arroyo. You have a declining economy dependent and at the same time destabilized by American business interests. Lastly, you have American cultural values so deeply ingrained with the Filipino psyche that its people today believe that moving to the US metropole is the true fulfillment of their dreams and destiny. One industry that exemplifies this is nursing and healthcare. The Filipino nurse is a common stereotype, but it's one grounded in history and current trends. The Philippines is the top country of origin for foreign-born RNs in the US at 33%, or approximately 143,000 strong. Counting American healthcare as a whole, there are 357,300 Filipino immigrants in the industry. This can be traced back, of course, to American occupation in the Philippines. The installment of an American education system brought along professional nursing schools and training programs. So, post-World War II, when there was a shortage of nurses in the US, they looked to Filipino nurses. These Filipino nurses were the perfect candidates. Due to the Americanized education, they were formally trained in nursing, they could speak English. But importantly, to the capitalist mindset, they weren't American, so they didn't have to be paid as much as US citizens. American policies like the Exchange Visitor Program and later the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965, along with the previously mentioned conditions at home, were able to facilitate this widespread labor migration to the level it is today. While it's imperative to learn more about and celebrate OFWs, it would be a bigger travesty to not acknowledge the problematic nature of this phenomenon. Despite being propped up as national heroes, OFWs often don't receive legal support and protection from the Philippine government while working abroad. Because of this, they are subject to abuse and exploitation. There are countless cases, such as Jocelyn Dunuan and Eugenia Baja, who were killed while working abroad, and Flor Contemplacion, an OFW who worked as a domestic servant in Singapore, who was charged and later executed for murder. In the two former cases, the Philippine government shifted blame to the OFWs themselves, rather than their employers for the mistreatment. In the latter, some argued for Contemplacion's innocence, or the very least, that the government did not provide the proper legal and consular support, thus dooming her case. Many think the reverence of OFWs as national heroes, specifically by Philippine presidents and the government, serves to detract from their lacking to address the mistreatment OFWs face abroad, and the domestic economic factors that push them to find work overseas in the first place. Regardless, it's those same economic factors that push so many Filipinos to become OFWs. With the dependency on migration and work opportunities in other nations like the US, it's not due to change anytime soon. Despite the precarious nature, working abroad is still the one-all be-all Filipino dream for folks to sustain their livelihoods and that of their families. They'll risk abuse and exploitation, racism, and in some cases undocumented status to achieve this dream. Until we can dream of a life beyond labor, OFWs are here to stay.